Hi my loves, Zoe here and welcome back to my channel. I feel so odd saying that intro considering I have not made a YouTube video in over a year and a half. I wish I could say that I was coming back on better terms, but I am doing a little bit of a more serious life update. But if you are new and you have not been keeping up with what's going on in my life, I recently tested positive for the BRCA1 gene, which means that I'm going to be undergoing 3 pretty serious surgeries in order to prevent cancers. I did ask some people on my Instagram to send me some questions regarding the BRCA gene, my surgeries, and all the things under the sun. So I wanted to do a full dedicated YouTube video. So let's just get into it because we have a lot to talk about. Before I get into talking about any of my surgeries, I do really want to clarify one thing. I do not currently have cancer. I really think that's important for everybody to know. The only time I've ever had cancer was when I was 9 years old. I have been in remission for 20 plus years at this point. The surgeries that I am getting are strictly to prevent cancer. I do not currently have cancer. My body is perfectly healthy right now. So on that note, let's actually talk about the BRCA gene for those who are not familiar. The BRCA gene is essentially a genetic mutation that puts me at a significantly higher rate of contracting breast and ovarian cancer in my lifetime. I lost my mom and my grandmother to breast and ovarian cancer when I was really young. I'm gonna give statistics for the people who have not seen my initial intro video about this. The average woman's risk factor for breast cancer is around 11 to 13%. And as a BRCA1 carrier, mine goes up to 80%. Same with ovarian cancer. I want to say the average risk factor for women is around 6%. Don't quote me, I'll put it on the screen. And then my risk as a BRCA carrier is 50%. So as you can see, the percentages of risk factors for these cancers raise up significantly higher. One of the number one things I really want to note is that I was born with this gene. The BRCA1 gene is not something that I have contracted over time. It's not something that I could have prevented in any single capacity. When it comes to genetic testing, you do genuinely just have a 50-50 chance of having it. For example, my sister tested negative, but I tested positive. And both my mom and my aunt were positive for the BRCA gene. So it really just depends. It's kind of the luck of the draw, unfortunately. And I've gotten a million questions asking me about the process of genetic testing. I feel like this is a really good opportunity to explain that. So I personally just scheduled my yearly physical. And I told the doctor about my family history and wanting to get my genes tested. And 2 out of the 3 women who have already tested in my family for the gene tested positive. It was kind of an undeniable, yes, let's get you tested. I do want to make a disclaimer. If you do not have a really strong family history of these cancers, insurance may or may not cover the genetic testing. I think it just depends on the hospital you go to, the insurance that you have. So I don't know what it would cost for the average woman to get tested, but if you have a really strong family history, insurance 9 times out of 10 will cover it. Something that's really in your heart and soul that you want to get tested, even though they don't recommend it because of your family history, I would just say advocate for yourself and be aware that you may have to come out of pocket for the genetic testing. My primary care doctor, I got a referral to a geneticist, so I went to that appointment. The process for genetic testing, for the average person, it is going to be a blood test. For me specifically, I'm a very rare case because I got a bone marrow transplant with my sister. I can't get my blood drawn because my blood can show up as her blood, if that makes sense. It's a really weird concept. They punched a little chunk of my skin out, essentially, and sent it to a lab. For me, it took 4 to 6 weeks, but I think for my sister who did a blood test, it took about 4 weeks. So just keep that in mind. It is a long waiting process to get your results back. How did I feel when I got my results back? To be honest, it really did rock my world. When I got it initially tested, they told me if it's negative, you'll just get an update in your portal, but if it's positive, you'll get a phone call. And mind you, I had gotten it 4 to 6 weeks prior, so I kind of forgot about it. It wasn't really even on my mind. And I remember I was having an amazing day. On the way home, I got a call and the caller ID said Kaiser, and my heart dropped. I just knew in that moment what I was going to hear on the other line when I answered the phone. I held it together for majority of the phone call, but then when I hung up the phone and I went upstairs, my sister just looked me in the eyes and she could tell something was wrong. And I broke down crying, and honestly, I probably didn't stop crying for at least a week. I was so distraught. I thought my life was over. Every negative thought I could have thought in that moment came to the forefront. A little earth-shattering, not the funnest experience I've ever had. I got a few questions about what the next steps are after you test positive for the BRCA gene. You have one of 2 options. You can either choose to monitor, which means that you will get screenings for your breasts and your ovaries every 6 months for the rest of your life. And when I say for the rest of your life, I literally mean until you reach the age where you have a higher risk of dying from other causes than you do of contracting the cancers. There's nothing preventative about that choice. It's just honestly monitoring to keep an eye on it, like catch it early. The second option is to do preventative surgeries, which is what I'm choosing to do. And then there's 2 types of surgeries that you get. Starting with first is a prophylactic double mastectomy. They're gonna go in and completely remove all of my breast tissue. It's essentially eradicating any tissue in my body that is susceptible to getting cancer. Do leave the muscle in your skin. You get to choose between doing a reconstruction, where they'll either replace it with implants or fat grafting to reform your chest back into place, or you can quote unquote go flat, where they basically remove everything including the nipples, and then you just have a scar across your chest. For the second surgery, I always mispronounce it. I think it's a salpingo oophorectomy. I think I'm messing up the first word, but the second surgery is essentially removing your ovaries and your fallopian tubes. It's essentially doing the same thing that the mastectomy is doing by completely removing the parts of your body and the tissue that is susceptible to forming cancer. Some people choose to either do an oophorectomy, or they choose to do a full hysterectomy, where they also remove your uterus. And of course, when you move these parts of your body, you remove the possibility of being able to have children, and you are forced into menopause. And for both of the surgeries, the healing time is around 4 to 6 weeks. To be honest, I never really felt like there was an actual choice. That's just for me personally. I think the choice seemed very obvious, just because obviously I witnessed both my mom and my grandmother pass away from these cancers that I have a really high risk of contracting. I have already had cancer one time in my life. That experience was extremely traumatic, and I'm going to do everything in my power to not get cancer in any form ever again. I already have a really high level of health anxiety. Literally any small minor thing that is wrong with my body, I think worst case scenario. I feel like doing screenings every 6 months doesn't really seem sustainable, because I just feel like I'm going to be on edge waiting for the ball to drop. But going back to more details about the mastectomy, somebody did ask me if I am going to be doing breast implants after removal. Yes, I will be getting some new titas, okay? I like to always tell people a mastectomy is not the same thing as a regular breast augmentation. I'm literally getting my boobs amputated. A lot harder of a healing process, as well as my boobs are not going to look like a normal boob job. Because they are removing the tissue, I will only have skin over implant, so a lot of the time there will be rippling. You can see the shape of the implant. It's just a much different than a breast augmentation. But my process in getting implants is going to be a 2-step process. So after they do the removal during the mastectomy, I'm getting something called expanders, which essentially they are hard, hollow breast implants. I'm gonna put those in there and allow my skin to heal a little bit. And every couple weeks, I'm gonna get a fill. And they're gonna put a needle into the port that the expander has, and they fill it up with saline every couple weeks to slowly but surely stretch my skin so that I can fit an implant depending on whatever size I choose to go. I'm not going super big, so I don't imagine this process taking a really long time. I have to keep the expanders in for 3 months post my last fill before they can go in and do an exchange surgery, where they take out the expander and then put in a normal silicone implant. I have heard expanders suck and they are super uncomfortable. People call them Tupperware boobs, so I'm not super excited for that process, but I am appreciative that I can do a little DIY on my chest. I feel like that's a silver lining of it all. Again, it is not a normal breast augmentation, so not necessarily something to quote unquote celebrate, but it is something nice at the end of the tunnel. I've been captain of the itty bitty titty committee my entire life, and now I can be a little bit bigger after all of my troubles of having to remove them anyways. Somebody also did ask me, am I planning to get my ovaries removed? Yes, I am. I plan to get that done, honestly, in my early 30s, probably around like 31 to 33. I have to make a whole other video talking about that, because it's such a heavy topic, and for me specifically, there's so many like added layers. But right now we're gonna focus on what's in front of me, which is my mastectomy in 2 weeks. So did I see multiple doctors before coming to this decision? Yes. I think that's really important. I did not get a second opinion on the actual like me having the gene, because I feel like that's pretty cut and dry. But when it came to my surgeries, I did get second opinions with plastic surgeons, general surgeons, ovarian surgeons, and doctors, gynecologists. I've seen honestly more doctors than I can count on my hands. I guess I do always suggest, if you are about to make such a big decision such as surgery, to always get a second opinion to make sure that you're comfortable with your surgeons. How did I prepare mentally, physically, and emotionally for this next step? To be honest, step 1, have a lot of crash outs. I feel like one of the best things that I've learned to do for myself is to allow myself to feel the emotions that I feel and to validate them throughout this entire process. This shit is hard. I am not going to sugarcoat it. I have been put through the ringer emotionally. When I'm angry about it, I let myself be angry about it. When I'm sad about it, I let myself be sad about it. When I'm scared, I validate that it is okay to be scared. I feel like the more I have tried to fight the negative emotions that come along with this process, I feel like the harder it is for me to come to these conclusions and take these next steps. Number two, I did start therapy. I think that has helped me a lot regarding the situation. I feel like there was a phase where I was trying to handle it all on my own. I don't tell people this often, but I was supposed to get my ovaries removed in February of this year. I was not seeking therapy, and I was not like sitting with how I felt about everything, to the point where I had such a big anxiety attack 2 weeks before surgery that I stopped eating. I lost 13 pounds. I just was like mentally and physically and emotionally drained and exhausted, to the point where like I made the executive decision, I cannot go through with this surgery because I am not in a good place to do so. You have to ask for help. Like, you have to be okay with asking for help, and therapy was a really, really big step in that process. Physically, how I've been preparing myself: no smoking, no drinking, cardio 5 times a week, and getting your blood flowing, I feel like, is really, really important. Doing light workouts, Pilates, like you don't have to be doing full HIIT workouts, but definitely making sure that your body is in a good position to be able to handle the trauma that it's going to experience during surgery. Somebody asked, has it been tough advocating for myself in the doctor's office? Honestly, yes. And I am in LA, and the rest of my family is on the East Coast. So a lot of my doctor's appointments, I'm the only one there being able to advocate for myself. And I will actually sit here and say there's a few times where I have not advocated for myself in the way that I should have, because I was shy, I was nervous, I didn't want to upset the doctors, I didn't want to push too hard. But as time has gone on, I really had to sit with myself and be like, well, Zoe, babe, this is your body. I come into my doctor's appointment with long lists of questions. At this point, I will hold you for as long as I need to hold you until my questions are answered. And if they don't get answered, then I'm going to go to another doctor. A doctor who cares about me, who cares about my well-being, who cares about me being comfortable, is not going to get annoyed at me by me asking questions, by me wanting to follow up, by me wanting to be hesitant and take a moment to think about things before I agree to it. A doctor who gets annoyed at me for wanting to do that is not a doctor for me, period. Somebody had asked me how BRCA has changed my lifestyle and my mindset. Lifestyle change, honestly, the biggest one was probably just the 1,000 doctor's appointments that I constantly have to go to all the time. Definitely have an influx of anxiety regarding my health. If I feel a sharp pain in my boob, or I feel cramping in my ovaries, instead of it just being a normal like, oh, it's not that deep, my brain automatically goes to, I need to give myself a breast exam, or I need to keep an eye on this to make sure it's not ovarian cancer. Like, my brain automatically goes to cancer. Have a new appreciation for the small struggles of life, which sounds so stupid, but like, I feel as though the small things that we oftentimes stress about, whether it's a boy or not liking a job, or, you know, a flat tire on a car, just the small things, I feel like are so more actually like minuscule to me. I have big things to focus on, that being my health. And one thing I've really recognized is that in life, nothing matters if you do not have good health, period. Constant like teeter-totter between like two different moods. It's either how fortunate and grateful am I to be able to afford healthcare so that I can get these procedures done, how grateful am I for the opportunity to choose life and choose my health and be proactive. But then on the other side, I think worst case scenario in every possible way. Oh my God, my life's over. Oh my God, my dating's gonna be so bad. No man's gonna want me now. I'm gonna hate my body. I'm gonna hate the results, XYZ. Like, it's such a teeter-totter between my emotions, but I always know, I always have this deep inner knowing that at the end of the day, no matter how hard this process gets, that I'm going to be okay. I have so many examples of me always coming out on the other side of things. I have so many examples of women who have gotten these procedures and are living their most beautiful life. One of those women being my aunt. Is what would I say to somebody who is scared about getting their genes tested or getting a preventative surgery when it comes to BRCA? If I could wrap it up all into a tiny little bow, I would literally just say, do it scared. I'm still experiencing the same fear that you are probably feeling if you're going through this. And at the end of the day, having a positive result and having to do these surgeries, nobody wants to do it. There's not a soul in the world that I can sit here and say actively wants to go through an amputation of their body, who wants to actively go through the emotional turmoil that is caused by all of this. I'm feeling so anxious and so sad and so scared and XYZ because I don't want to do this. And my therapist was like, well, babe, nobody wants to do this. And that's okay. I can feel all of the negative emotions and simultaneously still be ready and courageous enough to go and do it. Honestly, still struggling with it, but I feel like for such a long time, I tried to force myself to be okay with everything. I wanted to feel confident going into surgery. I wanted to feel okay and empowered by this entire experience. And if I don't feel empowered and if I don't feel confident, then that means I'm not ready to go into surgery. And that's just not true. I have so many examples of women who have gone through the same thing that I'm going through and who have made it through and are living happy, beautiful, amazing lives. There are women who have cancer currently and have to do this. So they have to do a mastectomy on top of treatment and all of these things. And as somebody who has experienced cancer before, that's not fun. And that's like, it makes it even harder. Yet they are still doing it and they're being badasses about it. Just knowing that I am not alone in feeling scared and that it is okay to feel scared and that the anxiety that my body is feeling is justified. Your body is literally trained to be in fight or flight mode. Your body is trained to make sure that it is keeping you safe. So if it feels like it's in danger, you're going to feel those feelings of anxiety and being scared and XYZ. That's just what comes with the territory. Your body's doing its job. But at some point, especially when it comes to something so serious as this, you just have to do it scared. And it kind of sucks to hear it that way, and that's like a tough love version of it. But honestly, it has allowed me to move forward with just a little bit more peace to know that, like, at the end of this, when this is all over, I'm going to be so beyond proud of myself for one, making this decision. I know my mom, if she was here, she wouldn't even give me the choice of making the decision. I would probably just have to do it. And to know that I'm doing this for my family and my friends who love me and want me to be healthy and happy, and doing this for my mom who unfortunately lost her life to this cancer, yet I get to choose. Like, it would be honestly a little bit of a slap in the face to my mom if I chose not to do it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just feel like at some point, as hard as it's going to be and as emotional and frustrated and angry and sad that I feel, I'm doing it scared. So being proactive and being able to take control and make my own decision about my health and choose to fight before I have to fight for real. To me, that's 10 times more empowering than just being afraid and letting that fear control me for the rest of my life. And I feel more empowered and confident in being able to choose my outcome of this situation than to wait around and have life happen to me. You're not alone in your fear. You have a giant community waiting to embrace you with open arms, and you have probably a lot of people to lean on and support you throughout this process. So even though you're scared, babe, do it scared, okay? Because at the end of the day, I feel like your life and being able to live a long, beautiful life is more important than whatever fear that you feel right now in this moment. Somebody did ask, how can friends and family best support during this time? Some of the best things that my friends and family have done throughout this process is honestly, one, validate what I'm feeling. A lot of times in life, we are trained when somebody is crying or when they're upset to stop them from doing that. Please don't cry, it's gonna be okay. Trying to make them not feel the things that their body is naturally trying to express. Sometimes people just need to sit with their emotions and feel it. When I felt those uncomfortable feelings, but they told me, like, babe, it's okay to feel that, that has meant a lot to me. It's meant a lot when my friends and family are proactive. So my sister and my best friend Crystal have been very proactive in helping me create Amazon wish lists to figure out all the things that I'm gonna need for my mastectomy. That's another thing. If you have the funds and are able to help, buying mastectomy aftercare products is so expensive. I just bought 4 products recently, $350 total for all of it. If you have the means to help them buy things, if you are a family member, going to doctor's appointments with them, and then do research on doctors. My friend sat with me and literally, like, we looked up each of my surgeons and like their background and where they studied in XYZ to make sure I felt comfortable. Like, it's such an overwhelming process, and especially doing it on your own feels so exhausting. And I feel like having people to pick up the slack in places where it may be causing you stress is so good. Helping with aftercare, you're gonna need a lot of hands on deck after surgery. I have my dad flying in, I have my sister flying in, and I have friends who are going to be there to support me throughout the entire journey. So being there for them during that process, they're not gonna be able to lift their arms over their chest. They're not gonna be able to lift anything over 15 pounds. Helping them do their laundry, helping them change their bed sheets, helping cook for them, helping them shower, helping them do the things that they're not gonna be able to do after surgery for a while. I think just there's so many ways that you can show up. Sorry, this was probably such a long video, and I know there's probably some people who have more questions. So if you do, I am such an open book, and I really want to use my platform to connect with girls, help them feel a lot more comfortable throughout this process if they are going through something similar, as well as just educate women across the world to know that genetic testing is available to you. Preventative surgeries are available to you. I want to answer any and all questions that you guys have. So if you did think of any more questions that I did not answer in this video, please comment them down below, and I will for sure make a part 2 or just add it in one of my vlogs regarding this whole process. But so eternally grateful for everybody who has poured so many love, prayers, and support into me since I came out and told everybody about the BRCA gene. Honestly, I had been so scared to share that information for so long. Showered with so much love and so many prayers and so many well wishes. Genuinely meant the world to me, and it has allowed me to have the strength and confidence to continue this journey, continue sharing my journey, and to step into this process with a lot more confidence. Thank you to anybody who has sent me love and prayers. Like, I don't think I can express enough how much that means to me. Surgery is in 2 weeks, so I'll probably have some update videos coming to you between then and now before the actual big day. But I love you guys, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.